So what we have topic for the day is sequences in Python. So when I say a sequence, it typically means that we are following some of the pattern. So sequences in Python, they are list, tuple, string, set, and dictionary. So we'll try how much we can cover today and how we can use them. There will be various different built-in functions on these sequences, so we'll try to implement them today. So let's come to PyCharm. So I'm going to now create a new Python file. Let us name it as session 3. So here we are going to today come up and discuss a lot of things. So let me put the content here. So sequences in Python. So we got list, tuple, string, set, and dictionary. So we'll discuss them one by one. And it's not that we have to finish all today, but we'll see accordingly how much we can cover. Now on the sequences, there is something known as operations, right? So operations on sequences. Now for some sequences, all of the operations will work. For few of them, there will be less operations will work. The first one is concatenation. Second one is repetition. So we'll see them in code in practical part. What exactly is this? Then we have membership testing. Then we got slicing, and the last one is indexing, right? So we got these operations which we can perform on the sequences. Now to begin with, we'll take list as our first sequence to be discussed. Consider we have a list of students. So we got some students. So I'm gonna create a multi-value container called list. So I got John, let's say Jenny, Jim, Jack, and Joe. So this is a list where we are trying to consider some multiple students. Now when I'll print students and print the type of students, so this thing is very clear to all of us beforehand. So when you run the program, you see that you got a list of students, John, Jenny, Jim, Jack, Joe. The way you add it, the way it is coming, and the type comes as a class list. So the class means the type, right? The classification. So it's the list. Now on list, we need to come up and follow these 5 operations. So I'll now put operations on list. So the very first operation is concatenation. So let us try to see what is meant by this operation called concatenation. So we will say print me students plus Fiona, Mike, and Lee. Let's say these are 3 more students. So I'm gonna do concatenation. So I'll say plus. The moment I say plus, so I'm trying to append more data in the list. So now when you run the program, so you see in the line number 27, what gets printed? It's a list which has Fiona, Mike, and Lee added in it. So concatenation operation refers to how you are going to merge 2 lists. But there is a simple, catch here. So if I now try to print students once again, and let us run this code here. So what you see, there is no concatenation happening in the student. So when I say students plus some list, what exactly this means? So I'll get some new students when I'll do concatenation operation. So let's see. So let us make a note here. Please see. Concatenation operation on 2 lists will generate a new list. So we need to understand this point in a better way. So lists, they are immutable. So lists concatenation, or you can say concatenation will not change the previous list. Rather, it's gonna generate a new list. So there is no change in the students, no change in students. And if I will come here and print new students, so we'll have this new list with changes. All right, so when you run the code here, so we get to see that a new students is the list which has the data concatenated within it. So guys, you can anytime ask your questions over the chat box in case you feel like, or over the audio whenever you have any query. All right, so concatenation operation, anyone with query? So I'll just put an empty print, and now I'm going to come up with something known as a repetition. The second operation is this repetition. So I'll simply say print me students multiplied by 2. Okay, so print is to print a scene. So whatever is getting printed here is just because of this print function. So this empty print here is to have an empty line. So let me show you. So when you run this program here, so you see that there is an empty line here in between these two lists. So there is an empty line. So that's why I have just kept an empty print. So when I say multiply by 2, so what we see is the same list is duplicated with the data. So it's replicated with the same values again. So if you say multiply by 3, so it's gonna be 3 times. But if you are going to come up and print students, so what you find is that there is no change in the students. So when I perform concatenation operation or when I perform a repetition operation, there will be no change in the previous list. Right? So that we need to understand thoroughly, guys. The third point over here is membership testing. Yes, please.
Ishant, one query.
Yes.
Can we have integers in the list? Like I have a list of roll numbers.
Of course, yes. Of course, yes. We can do that. So list can be for any type of data. So there
Okay.
can be students, there can be ages for the students. So they go like 20, 22, 23, let's say 33, let's say 37, right? Then there can be, let's say, registration numbers. So we can put up these registration numbers 101, 102. So that's perfectly fine to have a list, right? That's not a problem.
Okay. So it will not add like 20 to 101. I mean, it will append the list, right? I mean, if
now
I add
these are
ages,
three lists, three different lists. So students, ages, and registration numbers. These are three different lists.
Okay.
So in
if
our
I do
yes, please go ahead.
If I do addition, like I append age, I create another list.
Of course,
with
yes.
age plus registration
Exactly.
number.
Okay.
So it will append that list, right?
Right. Let's see that. Let's see that. So your query over here is the concatenation operation on two different lists with a different data, right?
Yes.
So guys,
Right.
let's say I'm gonna say appended list is, or let us be precise, concatenated list is students plus the ages. So this is the query, I think, Pradeep, which you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
So guys, we'll just simply try to add two of the lists, and then we'll see what is the resultant concatenated list. So I'll just put this concatenated list is comma concatenated list. So let's now run the code. So you see this concatenated list. So here is the list 1 data and here is the list 2 data. But always remember, student and ages, they will not change. Right? So there will be a new concatenated list which will be generated.
Fine. And if we add ages with this registration number, so they will
Yes,
also append, right?
You go ahead, right? So you add registration numbers,
Okay.
right? So this is how you get to see the data.
Mm-hmm. Fine, got it.
So plus operation will concatenate, multiply operation will help us to replicate the data in the list. So there are many, reasons that why we need to replicate a list. So sometimes you will replicate a list, you will work on the first part of the list, you will process and change the data, so you have original data and the modified data in the same list when you replicate the list. So in the membership testing, yes, query to anyone, guys. Okay, so in the membership testing, I'm just going to say print whether John is in the list of students or not. So John in students, so when you run the code, it will give me true. So membership testing is where we are testing whether a particular element is there in the list or not. For example, I can say print me 101 in concatenated list. So when you run the code, it says true. I can even say 1001 in concatenated list, so it's gonna give me false. So I can say 1001 not in concatenated list, so this will yield true for us, right? So this is known as membership testing. Now the next part which I'm going to put here is indexing. Data in the list is indexed from 0 to n minus 1, where n is size of list. So you need to understand this point, right? So we have this 0 to n minus 1 as the index range. So I can say print me students of 0. I can then say print me students of 3. So this way you will be getting this data, John and Jack. So here John is 0, Jack is 3. So index management for us, right? So we access the data of a list with indexes. The fifth operation for us is slicing. Now slicing is where we wish to extract uh, elements, you can say multiple elements from list. So how you will do it? So I'll say print me students of, let's say 1 colon 4. So when I say 1 colon 4, what exactly this will do? From index 1 till index 3, 4 not inclusive. So this way, with the help of slicing, it becomes more easier to extract the data. So I can even say in the concatenated list, I want from let's say 5 till 9. So from 5 till the 9 will get this part, right? So guys, acknowledgements once again waited from all of you in case we have all these structures clear. So we got sequences in Python. So to begin with, we have chosen list, and on list we understood what is concatenation, then repetition, membership testing, indexing, and slicing. So please review it. Let me know if you have a query here.
Ishant, query on indexing.
Yes, Pradeep.
So can you go to the last output?
Okay, so let me run the code here. Yes.
So in when we try to print student 1 colon 4,
Yes.
so okay, it will start from 0. No?
It will
John
start
is
from
0,
1.
Jen is 1,
No,
right?
no. So you said
Okay.
students
Okay.
1 till 4. So this is John is 0, right? So 1 is Jenny.
0 is John. Okay.
Right?
I missed
Jenny,
that 0.
Jim, and
Fine.
Jack. All right,
Yeah.
wonderful, wonderful.
Ishan,
Yes, Lalit.
for an example, we have 200 data of 200 in the list, for an example. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 200 name in the list.
Correct.
And in case of indexing, I want to choose one of the name, and I just want to know on what index number that name is. Because in that case, I have to count from 1 to 200 and or to that number wherever I want to bring that data out. So in case I just want to know out of list, like for an example, John, what indexing number it has. So I can be knowing that the next number to John will be the increment of the last number.
Correct, correct,
That's
correct, correct.
possible.
So we are going to now explore more of the function in the list. So as of now, so what we did, we just started exploring. So we got built-in functions, Pradeep, right, to find the index of an element in a list. So there is something known as index of, with the help of which we can find the index of an element, right? So we'll see that.
Yes.
It's gonna come, right?
Okay.
All right. So I got your query. So as in when that corresponding topic will be touched, I'll just highlight. Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
So in this another session, let's say session 3A. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna explore more of list here, right? So let's explore more of list and some of its functions. So what I'll do is I'll create a list called technologies, right? So let's say there are some technologies in the industry. We have AI, we have Android, we have Hadoop. Let's see something like gonna say Java Enterprise Edition. Let's say Node, Angular. So we got this list of some technologies, right? Now what I will do is I will simply say technologies of one, or let's say technologies of two is Flutter. Let's say one. To be precise, I'll come here and say one is Flutter. And now I will come here and print technologies. So when you run this program, what you find is that the index number one, which was Android, is updated. So if you want to update data in the list, so it's very simple. You need to mention the index, do an assignment, and the corresponding data will be updated. The corresponding element will be updated, right? So when I say print of technologies, so we are able to understand that we have Flutter now coming on the index number one rather than Android. And if I do a printing before the update operation, right? So now you see the two lists, right? So before you had Android and now you had Flutter. I can even say delete of technologies on 2. So when I now print technologies, so guys, what do you think? What will be deleted? Exactly. So it's gonna be Hadoop, right? Which will not be there in the index, not be there in the list. And immediately after doing a delete operation, I'll also say print me technologies of 2. So now what will be the output when I say print me technologies of 2? Exactly. So this is supposed to be JEE, right? Why? Because index management happens automatically. So in case I have deleted an element, so index shifting will take place. So after deleting Hadoop, which was the index 2, so it does not mean that the index 2 will have no value. So index will be automatically shifted. So the new indexes will become 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So always remember this point, right? So if you perform a delete operation, index management will happen automatically for us. Considering the slicing part, so I'll say print me. Yes, Pradeep, that we can do. So I'll come up on that, right? So print us technologies going from 0 colon 2, right? So when I say 0 colon 2, so this is clear that you begin from 0 but go less than 2, so it means 0 and 1. Now on the indexing approach, I'm going to say print me technologies of minus let's say 2. Guys, what do you think? Will this work? Or if it will work, then what it has to give us? Now 0 is to begin from the first. So when I say minus 1, so you begin with minus 1 first. So minus 1 over here is going to give me angular, the last element, right? And when I say minus 2 here, so a negative indexing means you start from the back. It gives me node, right? So I'll put it here itself. So positive indexing, and this is where you are using negative indexing, right? So start from minus 1 from the end. So this is what we have as in the difference. So considering the further operation, so what I'll do is okay, so guys, I'm just gonna give you one small exploration part here. So explore slicing with negatives, right? So you need to come up and explore slicing with negatives. So how it's gonna work when you say minus 2 colon 0 or minus 2 till minus 1, so how it's gonna work? So just explore that part, right? So write some snippet and see how it's gonna work for you. Okay, so let's try to create some data like roll numbers with a list 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? So these are some roll numbers. Now I'll say data which is there in the roll numbers with a pop operation. So I'll say roll numbers dot pop. When I say pop, I need to mention one index here. So I'll say the index goes like 2. So pop will remove on the basis of index, right? And when I will say print me roll numbers, so what you see is 1, 2, 4, and 5, because index number 2 was removed. So you need to understand. So pop will remove element on the basis of index. So pop is a built-in function for the list, right? And with the help of pop, you can remove the elements. You can even say del on the index, or you can say pop with the thing, right? So both of them will remove. But if you come up and say roll numbers dot remove 4, and then you say print me roll numbers, so this will remove the element. So remove removes the matching element. So you need to understand this very precisely, guys, that what is remove and how it's gonna work for us. So considering that you have 2 4s in the list, and now when you run the code, so what you see is the first 4 will be removed and not the second 4, right? So when I say remove 4, the first 4 will be removed and not the other 4s. So removes the first matching element, to be precisely. First matching element. Yes, Lalit. So when I say pop, this is like the del. Then when I use remove, this is where you are removing the element. So we got a query from a seam. So what exactly is this dot? Okay. So if I have to use pop and remove, they are built-in functions. So built-in functions of list. So what are they? Pop and remove. So to access functions of list, we need to use dot operator. That's a good question, right? It's a syntactical approach where we need to understand what is what. So if you want to access some built-in functions of list, we need to use the dot operator. So good to go, Asim?
Ishant, are these called methods?
Yes. So when I say functions, so we need to understand functions or methods or routines or procedures. So they're all same. So it's like different languages, they come up with a different terminology. So all of them are same for us. So good to go, see. All right. So let me now come up and write another Python module. So we'll say a new Python file. Let's say session 3b. Let us take some data as some elements called 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50, right? Now, I wanna know the length of the list. In order to understand the length of the list, you can simply say length of data. So len is a built-in function, so you need not to put a dot operator here, right? So it's a built-in function, not in the list. So it's just a Python built-in function. So print is a built-in function for Python. You don't put a dot operator to access it. So length is this length of data, and now I can simply say print length of data is comma the length. So the other way around to use the same structure is that you can simply say length of data, right? So in line number 5, I am saving the memory space for length. So I'll not create a separate container called length. So it's a more better usage. So as of now it says length is 5. So even if you will not use the line number 3 and 4 concept, so this is a bit better. Why? Because we are saving a storage container. We are not creating this length container in the memory. Now the way you got length, in a similar way, what we have is max of data, minimum of data. So let's say max of data and minimum of data, right? So max and minimum of data comes out to be 50 and 10. So considering with this, so I got some names. Let's say Anna. Then let's say John. Let's say Fiona. Then Mike. And then Kim. So guys, what do you think? What will come as max of names and min of names? Any guesses? So there is a query from Asim. So can we assign data type string and integer to a single variable? Well, no, Asim. So there is nothing like a data type concept here when it comes to Python. So typically what happens when I am using Python programming language, the data type is taken care automatically. What is this? Let us say, I'm just addressing your query here. So when I say age is 10, so age is a reference variable. I hope you can recall the previous discussions. So age as a reference variable is going to hold the hash code for the data type. Now the moment in the next instruction you say age is let's say 100. So this is a string. Now when I say age becomes the value 100. So this type is modified. So what is happening? The age over here is a reference variable which will now hold the hash code of 100, not the 10. So it's basically manipulation of the address, or you can say the hash codes, right? So types are taken care dynamically.
No, Ishan, I just want to confirm if we create a multi-value container, and in that container, can we create,
Yes,
assign
of course, you can do that. Here we go.
Sure.
Right? So this way we can have. So that way it becomes a heterogeneous container. That's the only difference.
All right. Thank you.
But having heterogeneous containers means what? That you don't have data safety. So let's say you are putting up a loop now. you want to add up the numbers. So coming up 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, you get 150. But when you're going to add Harry, it's going to be an error then, right? So when we create a list, we need to ensure the data safety comes up as well. So we try to make homogeneous containers, heterogeneous, where we know that, okay, we have no rescue to it, typically. Okay, so when I say max and min of these names and run the program, so max comes to be Mike and minimum comes to be Anna. So how is this getting sorted for us, guys? I think it can be considered as alphabetical operation.
Can you see the list? Yeah. Okay.
So will this work as in the alphabetically, guys? So A, B, C, D, and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
It's alphabetical, I think. Yeah.
alphabetical. Yeah.
Okay, so if it is so, then I'm gonna say A double N A. So now we got a lowercase and we got an uppercase Anna. So when you run the code here, so you get a lowercase Anna as max. So typically what is happening, this is the ASCII codes which are working. All right, so let me come up and, so I think ASCII codes are also clear to everyone, right? So I would like to get one acknowledgement, guys. ASCII codes.
No, no.
Okay, so
Yeah, I know.
so let me open this ascitable.com. So what we see is this uppercase A is 65, the ASCII value, and the lowercase a is 97. So if I say Anna, so A starts from this uppercase 65, and when I say Anna in lowercase, it is starting from 97. The first A value is 97. So this is coming up for us as max and min on the basis of their ASCII values. Good to go?
Yeah.
Okay, so for the reference, guys, you can always put this ASCII table. So I can just put up here, refer ASCII table. Alright, so now we know some max min functions. These are built in. They are not for the list, right? So they are not list functions. They are Python functions. Max, min, length, built-in Python functions. So I'm just going to do an empty print again. So let us put up a loop on list. So how are you going to put up a loop on list, right? So I'll say for I in range. Where to where? From 0 to the length of names. When I say 0 to length of names, so I will initially be 0, then 1, 2, 3, 4, up till you have a length of names, less than length of names, right? So I can write here 0 inclusive and length of names. So let me just come up here. So length of names is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That is 7 not inclusive, and less than 7, that is till 6. Okay, so I think these are 6 names. So here we are with the 6 and 5. So I value will be so value of I will be 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4 and so what? Okay, till 5. Yes. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these will be the 5 values for this guy called I. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll simply say print me names of I. So automatically I will become 0, then 1, then 2, so on and so forth. So now when I run this program here, so Anna, John, Fiona, Anna, Mike and Kim. So everything is listed here. So loop as in a very basic for loop, right? So if I say comma 2, so guys, what is the output now? So the first one was this one, the basic loop. So I'll just comment out this part. So what do you think when I'll say comma 2? So what will happen now? So we have introduced a step of 2. So this is the list of names: Anna, John, Fiona, Anna, Mike, and Kim. So when I say comma 2,
it will increment, skipping the one value at least.
yes, so we'll begin with 0, then you get Fiona, then you get Mike, right? So when you run the code here, so now you get Anna, Fiona, and Mike, because increment happens by 2. So initially the value was 0, then the value became 2, then so on and so forth. So if I start from 1 here, then accordingly the data will change. John, Anna, and Kim will come. So this is dynamic step which has been given to us, which we can use. So if you don't want to put some steps and you want to read all, so let's say we have a requirement, read all elements in list in sequence, right? So how you will do it? So you need not to now write this I in range concept. So you can use enhanced for loop. So what is enhanced version of for loop? I'll say for name in names, print me the name. Now this can be anything of your choice, right? So this you can keep any name of your choice. So I'm using a terminology that for name in name. So automatically the value will be now copied here. So automatically values will be copied into name from names one by one. So when I'll say print me the name, so now this is going to do a read all operation. So there is no step involved here, right? So we have no step involved here. So guys, can I get a smiley? Are we clear with what is enhanced version of for loop? So when you have to do a read all operation. Wonderful. Now I'm going to use something known as list comprehension. So I'll just say print me a list which is x multiply 2. So when I say x star 2, so typically this is what? This is your raised to power operation for x in, let's say, data. So let's see what will happen now. So when you run this program, so you get 100, 400, 900, 1600 and 25,000. So what happened? So 10 multiplied by 10 or 10 power 2, then 20 power 2, 30 power 2, 40 power 2 and 50 power 2. So you created a new list with one single line of operation. So you can mention your operation and you can proceed accordingly to generate a new list. So this is how we call this as list comprehension in Python. So I want you guys to explore more different types of list comprehensions. So just Google out the term called list comprehension, see various different syntaxes here. Okay. Now I can even create a list. Yes, X can be any name. So we are reading in data. So automatically the values copied into X and you create a new list with this formula X multiply 2. X can be any name. I can say numbers, which is a list, and there is a range of 1 to 101 with a step of 2. So what I'm doing here, so guys, we are trying to use this range function 1 to 101 with a step of 2, and I will create a list. And now when I will print these numbers, so I'll just do an empty print line in between. So what you see is 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. So I'm getting all these odd numbers here. And if I want to print the even numbers, so I'm just gonna say you go from 0 to 101, let's say, and you say run the code. So you get a list of all the even numbers. So range, step, convert it to the list. So let me just put this session here. Now please review this and let me know if you have any query here. So guys, a smiley in case we are clear so that we can proceed, or if you have any query, you can please raise that. All right, so let us write the next Python module. So I'll say session of 3C. So considering that we have this list of names, let's say John, Jenny, and Jim. Now what I can do is, since the list is with the three names, so we can append the data. Let us see how we can do that, right? So the first one is updation of data, which we have already seen, that you can say names of 0 is now Mr. John Watson. I can even come up and say names dot append Kim. So now I will try to say print me names. So what is append? Append is a function of list, right? So append is a function of list. Now when you print the names, so what you see is John Watson is updated, and we got Jenny, Jim, and Kim coming here. So Kim is added into the list in the end, right? So append is a function of list which will add the data in the end. So print names. So we say that list is mutable. So guys, a list is mutable. So we can update, delete, or add data in the list. So these are the operations which we can perform. So what is meant by mutability? That where you can do an update, delete, or addition, right? Now the same way I created this list, I'm going to create a tuple. So how you'll create a tuple? So let's say some new names is a tuple. So the same thing represented by tuple. Now in tuple, if you will say new names of 0 is John Watson, and let us try to print these new names and run the program, you will get an error. So it says that the tuple object will not support item assignment. So what exactly this means? This means that your tuple is immutable. So tuple is immutable. We cannot update, right? So you cannot update the data. So let us try doing a delete operation. So let's say delete me new names of 0 and run the code here. So it says does not support item deletion, right? This is again an error. So this was also error, this is also error. Now let us do the last operation. So we will say new names dot append. So let us say Kim. And now you run the code. So it says nothing like append. So it means in tuple we cannot perform all these operations. So there is a very basic reason that tuple is immutable version of list. So tuple is just read only. So let's say, please see, if we create a tuple, we cannot perform operations like update, delete, or add, right? So it's a kind of a constant. So it's a kind of a constant for us. So we can perform loops, then moving ahead, indexing, slicing, and other operations. But update, delete, or add is not allowed, right? So these operations are not allowed on tuple. So tuple is your list, but it's a kind of a read-only list. So guys, can I get a smiley here?
Ishant, one question on list. When we did names square bracket 0, it appended John Watson to the names. So the output should be John Watson, John, Jenny, and Jim.
No, 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 no.
Uh,
No. When I said names of 0 as John Watson, so this is an update operation.
okay, okay.
So 0th index previous value is modified. So we are modifying the previous value. So it means instead of John Watson, if I'll say this as Fiona Flynn, and you run the code here, so it will say Fiona Flynn, right? So John is not there anymore. 0th index value is updated.
So basically, with this 0, we are updating, and with append, we are adding.
Yes, so exactly. So this is the update operation, and this is where you are going to add the data, but you are going to add the data in the end of the list, not somewhere in the middle.
Understood. Yeah. Okay.
All right, so anyone else with the query here, guys?
Ishant, so what is the use of tuple then? I mean, we can't perform operations to.
All right, so
Quite
now
consider.
yes, of course, Lalit, I got your query here. So you see here PyCharm, file, edit, view, navigate, code, refactor, run, tools, VCS window, and help. This is a menu option which is coming here in the software, right? So it's a tuple. It
Right.
will not change,
Okay.
right? So these
Okay.
values
So,
itself will not change.
I got it now.
Wonderful. So when you need to come up and create some options which you want to show to the user, and you know that these options will not change, they're just static options, right? So you create a tuple.
Okay.
Okay, so let us see one implementation of the list as a shopping
Ishant,
cart. Yes, please.
sorry, one question. If we say that this menu is created in the tuple, can we create this menu in the list as well?
Yes, of course.
So
When you create a list, it is editable, it is updatable, it is deletable. When you create tuple, it's a constant. That's the only difference.
okay,
So other than that, we have no other difference in a way of telling that tuple is a constant, read only. You cannot manipulate. Now there can be, there can be options which you are giving to the user, and they may be dynamic. User may be able to change them, right? But you don't want the user to change the options, so you make it a tuple. So other way around, guys, where list comes in is majorly the shopping cart. So let us create a shopping cart. So shopping cart over here is one of the lists, right? So it's an empty list, of course, right? So we have no data here. So shopping cart is an empty list. So what I'll do is I'll ask the user what food items he wants to order. So we'll append them into this shopping cart, right? So I'll say a food item, right? And let us name this as some food cart to be more precise, right? So food item is an input from the user. So we'll have a string input from the user. I'll say enter a food item of your choice. So whatever the food item will be added or entered by the user will be added into this food cart. So I'll say food cart dot append the food item, right? So what I'll do is I'll append the food item into the food cart. So you can ask user once again. So this way I'll add the other food item. So I'm asking for two food items. So enter a food item, enter the food item. Thereafter I'll simply say print me the food cart. Let's run this code here. So enter a food item of your choice. So I'll say this goes like some noodles. Then enter another one. So I'll say a sizzler here. Hit enter. So the food cart comes out to be as noodles and sizzler, right? So you can dynamically create a list. So you can take the data from the user as input and you can create a list of your choice. Now, as and when it comes to the networking part, so we can ask the users to enter the IP addresses for the different routers. So once the user starts entering the IP addresses, you can add them in a list and thereafter you can process it. So I can do a manual addition as well, right? So I can say a food cart dot append. So let's say this goes like something like Manchurian. So this is one manual, or you can say hard coded way of doing it. Now, when we are going to do an append, so append is going to append a single element, right? So when I'll say print me the food cart now, so let's see. So I'll enter some noodles, sizzler, then this Manchurian will be automatically appended for us, right? Why? Because you appended it yourself. I can even say food cart dot extend. Now when I say extend, right, so I'm going to come up here and say one list. In this list I'm gonna say let's say a veg soup, and let's say some breadsticks. Guys, now remember, there was something known as a plus operation or concatenation operation, and extend operation is a bit different, right? Now when I will run this program, I'll enter these food items. So what you see is in the same food cart, you have two more elements added. So extend is a function with the help of which you are extending your list, right? So extend function of list will help us to add more than one element in the end of list, and the same list will be modified with new data added in it. So guys, can I get a smiley here? Extend function is clear to everyone?
Ishant,
Yes, Asim.
Ishant, can we create a loop for this input function? Because if we don't want to do it manually,
Yes,
and
yes, we will come up.
the
Yes, Asim. That I'm gonna do it very soon now, right? So
Okay,
after
okay,
this, we
okay,
will put up that with some IP addresses and all, right? So I'll write one
okay.
small program where we'll see how the things can flow.
And second question on this, and if it is possible to do the addition operation on all these input values, if these are integer values.
Yes, of course, we can do that.
Okay.
So that's like you keep on adding the data, right? So you
Yes,
can take the
it is
prices and add the
basically
data.
yeah, it is basically the bill program which you created in the second session. If we take the input from the user,
Yes, we
and
can do that. Of course, of course. What I'll do is I'll write down that code. No problem. So we'll just write down that code, right? So after we do this, so we'll do that part as well. So for a scene, guys, there is a very basic query. So if we can put up a loop, we can iterate, we can get the food items of n number of food items from the user. So that way it's gonna be more useful, right? Because here it's hard coded as in only two food items. So we'll do that. But very quickly, I'll just wrap up this part here. So I can say food cart dot insert on the first index. So you insert a pizza. So when I say insert one comma pizza, it means we are adding a new element on index 1. So you can also add the data in between if you want, right? So we can add the data in between if you want. So thereafter I will again say print me food cart. So when I will run this program here, so two items we have to add. So let's say noodles and sizzler I'll add. So this will be extended, and what you see is on the first index we got pizza inserted, and automatically index management will happen. So noodles becomes 0, pizza becomes 1, sizzler becomes 2. So guys, insert operation is clear to everyone? All right. So now let us try to create a dynamic program. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'll write one dynamic program, session 3E. So we'll say one IP addresses is a list, and there is a user choice which is by default yes. So there is a variable choice with the value yes. So we got an empty IP addresses, right? So I'll now say while choice is equal to yes. So it means that we are going to iterate till the value of choice is equal to yes. Now I'll say IP address is an input, enter IP address, right? So user's gonna enter an IP address, and that IP address I'm going to just append in the IP addresses. So this way it becomes dynamic, and now I will say that the choice is print would you like to add another IP address? Then I can ask for yes or no. So if the user will say yes, so this loop will automatically proceed. If user will say no, so this loop will terminate, right? So here we are. So choice is what we are going to take the input from the, sorry, this is my bad. So this has to be input. Now thereafter I will say print me the list of IP addresses. So now when you run this program, what happens? Let's see. So I'll say 198.127.0.1. So would you like to add another IP address? I'll say yes. So yes. So I want to add some other one. And now I'll say no. So thereafter, this becomes the list of IP addresses. So Asim and others, guys, can I get a smiley from all of you? So how will I come to know how many IP addresses have been entered by user? So my question is how you'll come to know? Exactly, Pradeep, it's gonna be the length, right? So I can simply say print, you have entered, then I can say a comma, length of IP addresses, comma, IP addresses. So you can very easily now start, you can use these things where you can perform some operations. So at the same time, if you have some numbers which you want to add, those numbers you can do an addition, subtraction in the loop itself, or outside the loop you can process it, right? So this is one query. I hope Asim, it's resolved now, right? All right. So let us cut here for a small break, and after the break we